Hey there and welcome to Sea Power. My name is Stealth and I have about 80 hours into the game right now. This video is outlining a bunch of the mistakes that I've made so that you don't have to. Let's start with number 1. Detection issues. This is pretty much a broader category because the detection mechanic in Sea Power is very important. Are you capable of detecting a threat before they detect you? Are you capable of then engaging the threat before it engages you? Radar is, of course, a very important asset in Sea Power. But the moment that you turn on your radar is most of the time the moment that you get detected. Every radar has a certain range. Whether you're searching for an air target, whether you're searching for a ground target, it doesn't really matter. But the range at which you can be detected when you activate radar tends to be about 4 times that range. Somebody has compared it to a game of flashlight. You have a flashlight, you're trying to find somebody in a field at night. You can turn your flashlight on and you might be able to see, I don't know, 5 meters or 15 feet in front of you. But the person that you're trying to find can see that flashlight from far, far away. Much farther than you can see. So it is maybe tempting to have your flashlight on at all times because it'll allow you to see better, but it also makes you be seen a lot sooner than you should. In Sea Power, it's really no different. Sure enough, a radar allows you to detect contact, but it allows you to be detected from very far away. Fishing vessels will have a radar. They might be using that in Sea Power, and you'll get a vague, let's say, low power return from it. A military radar, whether it's an air search radar or surface search radar, is much stronger. This means it has a sort of distinct signature to it, saying, hey, I'm a warship, I have a military radar on me. So the moment that you activate your radar is the moment that you most likely will get counter-detected. There are ways to get around this, just playing passive, just waiting for the enemy to use their radar, which the AI in this game does. Is definitely a valuable tactic, and it's something that, especially early on, I did not do. I just used my radar all the time. Not a good idea, because you'll get detected. And then the missiles start flying very, very quickly. Another way around it is to use a helicopter. Some ships have helicopters, you launch them, you tell them to go a little bit of ways from your ships, and then activate their radar. So then the enemy might go, hold on, there's a radar out there. Yes, there is, but that's the helicopter's radar. So if they start shooting missiles at that particular radar signature, that'll mean that your ships, at least for a while, should be safe. As for when you do activate your radar on your ships, the moment that you start seeing missiles coming in, if you can see them coming in without your radar turned on, is pretty much the moment that it's safe to assume that you've been detected. The enemy not only knows where you are, but it also knows what you are. So at that point, it is very much worth it to activate your search radars, both air search to spot incoming planes and missiles, and to use your surface search in case you might not have spotted all the surface targets. So that is a good moment when you can go active with your radars. Number 2, not knowing your platforms. And I'm using the term platforms because it can apply to a ship, and it can apply to a plane, it can apply to a helicopter. There's a lot of different assets in this game, a lot of different platforms, and they all have their own capabilities. Most of those are outlined in the unit card. So with that, you can quickly see, okay, what's their speed, what's their range, what's their capabilities, what's their weapons, what's their sensors. I generally don't take enough time to look at those. And because of that, I don't know what the capabilities of my units are. At least, not fully. This doesn't only go for the unit itself, but also for the missiles that it carries. For example, some missiles need to be pointed at a target. Let's say it's a missile launched from a plane. They need to be pointed at a target by the plane that launches it. So they need to be told where to go almost the entire time. I didn't know that for some of those missiles. And if you're then turning your plane away, the missile goes, hold on, I don't know where to go. And it just turns into a dumb missile. It doesn't actually go anywhere. So taking some time to figure out what unit can do what unit has which weapons, and also which weapons work how, is extremely valuable. This, however, takes time. It is not like you can just pick up the game and immediately know, oh, okay, that missile does that missile does that. Maybe if you're coming from a game like DCS, or you've played Shimano or any of his other variants, yes, you definitely have an advantage. If you haven't played those, take some time to learn the units. Take some time to figure out what they do, how they work. And yes, that will involve making mistakes. I've made mine. Good luck making yours. Number 3. Not sticking to Doctrine, or not really knowing what the Doctrine is. The Doctrine is how ships, or let's say task forces or missiles, are supposed to be used. In the case of the Soviet fleet, for example, their doctrine is to shoot first, and shoot lots. They have very, very long-range missiles, outranging the US fleet or the NATO fleet generally by hundreds of miles. So it is very much imperative for them to launch first, especially since their air capabilities are far weaker than the US/NATO side. I didn't know that. So I didn't use my missiles as much, and when I did use them, I tended to use them piecemeal. This means I was sending 2, 4, maybe 5 missiles and then waiting to see what happened to conserve my ammunition. There is something to be said for that, but some missiles that the Soviets are using are very smart. Especially for 1980s tech, they're very smart. The shipwreck missiles, for example, they sort out themselves into a wing, so it's like they have a collective intelligence. They sort themselves out into a wing, they even designate targets for each other, so that they don't all go for the same target. And this way, if you have something like a Kirov-class missile cruiser, you can just send all your missiles after a big set of targets, and the missiles will sort themselves out. It's not like you'll have 10 missiles going for that one frigate, but if the missiles decide that, hold on, there's a carrier in there, that deserves a few more missiles, they will sort that out by themselves. I didn't know that, so I wasn't sticking to that Soviet doctrine of launching missiles lots and together. And because of that, my efficiency was rather low. The missiles were just getting intercepted, and then I'd send another wave, and they'd get intercepted again, and then I'd be out of missiles. So try to figure out what the doctrine is for the side that you're playing. It's definitely going to help you in make the best use of their weapons and their platforms. Number 4. Not taking enough time to plan. Sea Power, at least in its current iteration, is a single-player game. This means that you also have the ability to pause. Hit the spacebar, slow the game down, just pause it. Plan your next move, plan what platforms, and I'm using platforms as in it can be an aircraft, it can be a submarine, it can be a surface ship, what should go where within the next 10 minutes, within the next 2 hours, and everything in between. How do you want to approach the problem at hand? How do you want to get a detection, for example, on whatever platforms that might be out there? Where do you want your radar positioned? What sort of units might you need to launch from your carrier and then get into position? This is something that I still don't really do enough. I don't take enough time to figure out what my next move is going to be and what the next course of action should be. Keep in mind that Sea Power is essentially a 4-dimensional game. You're playing not only in 3 dimensions, but the 4th dimension is time. When should what platform or what missile arrive at what location to do, well, what effect? Is it going to be a submarine that has to go somewhere in order to intercept something? If so, you need to plan for that, because a submarine takes time to arrive. It's not generally capable of doing 30 knots without getting detected. If you are using an aircraft carrier, you might need to launch a bunch of aircraft. Those aircraft need time to travel to a certain destination. Which aircraft need to get launched first? Which aircraft are potentially slower than others? Plan all that. You have time. Just hit spacebar. Slow the game down. Slow it down. Read the unit descriptions if you need to, and then make your plan. Number 5. Not being patient. This is an issue that I don't run into just in Sea Power, but generally in life altogether. I am not a very patient person. In Sea Power, this translates into being potentially too aggressive with my deployments, trying to have units get too close to where they are at risk of getting shot down. I've had aircraft get shot down because I was too eager to get a detection, and promptly got met by a surface-to-air missile. You have time in this game. And I'm saying that with the caveat most of the time. Sometimes there's a cause for direct action that you really have to respond immediately. But most of the time, things, especially in Sea Power, have time to develop. Submarine warfare, or rather anti-submarine warfare, ASW, can sometimes also be explained as awfully slow warfare. It just takes a while to figure out where that submarine is, where they're going, and how you're going to eliminate it. You have that time. You can be patient. You can take a little bit more time, for example, hunting that lonely submarine. That is, unless it's within 10 km of your strike group, for example. In that case, you might want to hurry up. But if it's 20, 30, 50 miles away from your carrier group, it's most likely not going to be able to use its torpedoes. Sure enough, if it's the right type, it might be able to use its missiles, but not all of those submarines have that. And this again ties into, let's say, point number 2, not knowing the platform. You can take your time to identify what it is that you're chasing. And again, that has to do with being patient and figuring out what the next step is going to be. And then if you know what the next platform is that you're going to try to engage, for example, a submarine. Okay, is this guy armed with cruise missiles? If so, it definitely needs to get stepped up in the kill order. It needs to get killed off right now, because it can definitely be a threat. If it's a diesel-electric submarine which just carries torpedoes, you should be fine. You can just take your time to let it develop, get a very good location on it, and then dump a torpedo or two right into its face. Number 6. Forgetting electronic warfare. Electronic warfare can play a very important part in sea power. Electronic warfare is done by a couple of different platforms. Most of the time, they're airborne, but some ships also have offensive ECM, electronic countermeasures. This is basically jamming somebody else's radar. Imagine that you're trying to see something, and somebody else is shining a very, very bright flashlight right in your face. At that point, it becomes very difficult to make out anything. And for a radar, this is pretty much happening when it gets jammed by electronic warfare. This means that if you have a surface group that you're trying to kill using your own cruise missiles or your own anti-ship missiles, if you are shining your electronic warfare jammer into their eyes, or rather into their radars, you have a much better chance of getting missiles to go through. Sometimes it's so much so that a group that is not getting jammed is perfectly capable of shooting down every single missile that you've shot at them, whereas a group that's getting jammed is pretty much dead. It has no chance. Its radars cannot acquire a target. They don't see the missiles. And because of that, they cannot take action against them. Sometimes they might get a shot off, sometimes they might get a missile off, but most of the time, they're very dead very quick. Jammers are awesome. Use them. Use your electronic warfare. Whether you have them on ships, whether you have them on a plane, doesn't matter. Just try to find any of those platforms and incorporate it into your strategy, because it'll definitely make a very big difference. And finally, number 7. Accept that you're learning. You're learning a new game. You may have read Red Storm Rising, you may have read the entire encyclopedia by Tom Clancy, you may have played Samano, you may have played War Thunder. It doesn't necessarily make you an expert at this game. If you're starting out fresh, you have a lot to learn. If you're coming from other military games, you might have slightly less to learn. But keep in mind, Sea Power is a different game. It might do things slightly differently from what you're used to. And much like other games, that takes time to learn. Accept that. You will mess up. The benefit for you is that you're most likely not a content creator, and that means that not all of your mistakes will get highlighted in the comments. On the other hand, that can be considered an asset, because when I make a mistake, everybody mentions it, and I can quickly do better. When you are getting killed off in a mission, when you're losing a ship, try to figure out why that happened. How did that happen? What exactly did you do wrong? Or could you have done different to prevent that particular outcome? How can you prevent that mistake from happening again? What needs to change? Was the ship potentially out of position? Did you activate your radar? Did you not activate your radar, causing the ship not to be able to defend itself? Learn, and accept that it is going to take time to learn. Again, for me, it ties into point 5 a little bit, not being patient. I want to have everything going right now. But that's simply not possible, at least not for me. And it might not be possible for you either. So, accept that. Accept that you're learning. Just take the pains and enjoy the journey of getting better at the game. Alright, those were at least some of my most often made mistakes that I've had come back time and time again. I hope that it was helpful to you, this video. I hope that you have been at least a little entertained by all of the things that I did wrong and also warned so as not to have to repeat my mistakes. I'm definitely making more mistakes. And I know that I'll be making more mistakes. And that's fine, because every mistake means that I'm learning. You're learning more from a mistake than when something goes wrong. Or sorry, when something goes well. Because when something goes well, it just means that you don't have to change anything. If you're doing something wrong, and you're getting punished by it, by getting a torpedo jammed up your ship, or getting missiled, that means something can definitely be improved. And that's where at least your growth opportunity for this game is. So, thank you for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed the video. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon for more.